What's up, guys? Tukey here, back again. It's been about 5 days, but we are back. This is episode 30 of my Fantasy Draft Franchise Mode series on NHL 17 with the St. Louis Blues. And in today's episode, we go for the Stanley Cup title defense. This team, which I should have showed you instead of going to the calendar, this team is stacked to the gills, and we should run through the NHL. Big year for Patrick Laine. He really needs to improve with the guys like Klim Kostin and Tyson Jost not too far behind. That fourth line's looking good. The defense is unreal. So let's get right into it. Let's see what this team can do. Now, whether or not the only thing I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it because I don't want to jinx us. I think the only thing that can really stop us is a certain injury bug, which hopefully stays away. You know what? Scouting this year, fuck it. I don't care. I don't care. Who cares? Every year I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll pay that much more attention to what areas I scout, and we're guaranteed to, not get screwed over and not have someone that, in an area where we scouted for 6 weeks show up as, oh, you haven't scouted this guy at all. No, that's not going to happen at all. Happens every goddamn time, no matter how much attention you pay to the system. So I'm not going to bother. Now, surprisingly, we lost to New Jersey. Can Vehvilainen get the win against the Islanders is the question, and it is a shootout loss, and here I am thinking we're going to run through the league, and we are 1-1 through our first 3 games. Alrighty then. But, yeah, like I said, it's been a couple of days since we've uploaded this. Been a little bit busy with the consistent amount of Tukey's Takes videos that have come out lately, which, if you haven't checked those out, feel free. A couple of them, at least one of them, might be a little bit outdated, that being the original video talking about Claude Julien being let go by the Bruins. Obviously, a lot has happened since then. But, yeah, I was going to say, this series and the Bruins series, still having fun with it. We're still making some good progress. But obviously, the big thing right now is just waiting for the NHL trade deadline to pass so we can get those new rosters implemented. If any trades actually happen. Today Tom Gilbert was traded, which, what a blockbuster that was. There haven't been any major moves. There have been quite a few moves in the minors. People like, I think it's Cam Schilling, traded from LA, or traded from Chicago to LA. Zach Stortini was moved. Mitch Moroz was moved. It's been moves of that caliber. The biggest changes this year have been the coaching changes, which, for people that enjoy trades and watching things get shaken up a little bit, that isn't exactly the most exciting thing in the world to happen. And people keep saying, just wait for it, it's going to happen, these moves are going to happen. But maybe they won't. Maybe teams are so afraid of the upcoming expansion draft that they're just not going to pull the trigger. And there are a lot of teams where you just know they have to do something, or they risk losing a solid player for free. Now, for a team like Pittsburgh, if you hold on to Marc-Andre Fleury, things are all right. Because at the very least, then you have 2 goaltenders on your roster that have both won cups, even if, Matt Murray is the clear number 1 at this point. And, that way you're looking good, and then, yeah, you lose Fleury for free, but who knows, there might be another cup at the end of this season. Same thing with Tampa. It kind of helps with their struggles this year to have both Bishop and Vasilevsky to switch between. Otherwise, it's tough. I know there was another goalie other than Gudlevskis, I believe, that's been called up this year. But would Gudlevskis be the backup for Tampa? You've heard the same stories because it's just been regurgitated all season long. Everyone's waiting for those big players, those predictable players, to be moved, and it simply hasn't happened yet. Although I can't help but think, after the PK Subban Shea Weber trade, where everyone's like, Subban's getting traded, and then just when it looked like nothing was going to happen, it finally happened. So deadline day could be pretty ridiculous. So I don't know. Focusing on this, we are 6-3-2 Vevalainen just beat Dallas, so we're going to keep him in until he loses. And unfortunately, that wasn't for too much longer. This team is struggling right now. We are in second place in the division. It's close. Obviously, we're only 12 games into it. But maybe some changes will be made sooner rather than later. How's Zaka doing on the fourth? I mean, the fourth line's not too bad. Not too bad. Point-wise, it's not great, but they're a defensive line. Costa and Jost aren't doing too bad. It is the second line right now that is killing us. Wow, Clayton Keller, 7 points, but a -5. Patrick Laine, damn. All right, well, we are going to have to make a change here, I think. The question is, who gets called up? You know, actually, let's just swap Strome and Keller. Maybe that gives that line a little bit of a different look. I think we'll just rely on that for now because that third line isn't doing too poorly. Although I didn't even check. Maybe it's the goaltending. I mean, Carey Price did let up quite a few goals against the Blackhawks not too long ago. We lost 6-2 to the Blackhawks. But let's see. We should just be able to keep simming ahead here. I guess I'm going to keep this episode live. I don't know. I mean, it's tough because sometimes, you know, I mentioned this in the comments too. With, you know, the way, like, okay, let's sim a chunk of the season at the time. It was nice when we, you know, were dealing with constant injuries, but since we've tuned down the sliders, like, if we didn't tune down the injury slider, we would have had 6 injuries by this point in the season, which is why I started doing that in the first place. The only problem with this is that you only have so much to say. I wish it was like old franchise modes, which that's just a general statement. I wish it was like old franchise modes, where in the right-hand corner, you used to be able to see your team's player stats. That wasn't too long ago. I think that was on the 360. I don't know. It's been a while since I've had my 360. But, you know, you used to be able to see your team's point leader, assist leader, you know, goal scoring leader, all that. And it at least made things a little bit more interesting because you at least had something to talk about other than every 3 seconds just being like, hey, look, a win. We got a win. Hooray. But we do have our first injury to deal with. And who is going to get the call up? Pietila, or Ben Blood? You know what? I remember somebody hated Ben Blood, but he's gonna square into the lineup here. An enforcer. We will see what he can do. Wonder how the AHL is doing. Big season there too, especially because we have some better offensive prospects coming in. And with this series in general, that is going to keep happening. Is, you know, we're at the point now with, you know, like the Eggenberger signings and the Zadina signings. You know, the third and fourth line is going to be changing a lot as we continue on. But my point was, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to sit here and just talk while simming something in the background. Although I do suppose this would be a better time to be, you know, because I mentioned too in the Tukey's Take video, sometimes I don't like making videos where it's like, oh, well, what am I going to say? The main example I always used was Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine. How am I going to make a video for 5 minutes talking about that when the only thing I can really say is, yeah, they're pretty fucking good, aren't they? Which is the truth. I mean, right now, as far as those two go, actually, because it is actually interesting to talk about. The Calder race is crazy, and I was actually talking to some friends of mine on here about the trophy race in the NHL. I don't think any of them are a lock. I mean, the closest you have to a lock is probably Brent Burns for the Norris, just because that award is more about who has the highest point total as a defenseman. Although last year with Drew Doughty, I actually don't remember if he led the league for defenseman, but it was compared to the main comparison with Drew Doughty winning the Norris last year was Leonardo DiCaprio winning the award for The Revenant. It was kind of like you deserved this before, so here you go, have it now. But obviously, you know, with like Erik Karlsson winning the Norris, is he the best defensive D-man in the league? No, but he is a hell of an offensive force. And you look at what Brent Burns is doing this year, it is insane. On pace to put up the most points by a defenseman since Ray Bourque in 1994. That is how good he has been. That team just thrives off of Brent Burns' success. And it's been entertaining to watch. Especially, too, as you see clips of how, if you haven't, go look up how Brent Burns calls for a puck. It is hilarious. He is literally regressing into a caveman in front of our eyes, and it's amazing. Aside from that, though, award-wise, who else is really a lock? I mean, I'm not saying Brent Burns is a lock. He's obviously the favorite to win the Norris right now. The other favorite to win the Vezina is probably Devan Dubnyk. I mean, you could argue Bobrovsky. Sorry, Habs fans. Hey, Habs fans, chill. If you think I don't give the Habs credit at all, which go watch the last Tookie's Take where I talk about Claude Julien going to Montreal if you think I don't give them enough credit. Carey Price is more than likely out of the Vezina race. Simple facts. So to me, it comes down to Dubnyk and Bobrovsky. Although, that's tough. That is tough. Do you give Bobrovsky the award simply because he turned it around? Like, Bobrovsky was good, and then the start of last year, he literally got his coach fired and had a pretty bad season. And now this year, he's back to his normal standards. Is that good enough to win the Vezina? Or do you go with Devan Dubnyk, who has been absolutely insane all year long, as have the Minnesota Wild? But aside from that, what locks are there? The Calder certainly isn't a lock. I mean, Mitch Marner has a case. Zach Werenski has a case, among others. I'm not going to try to name everybody. But obviously then you have Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine, and with Matthews doing as well as he has done in terms of point production, you can argue he deserves the Calder. Is Austin Matthews the best all-around player? Yeah, and I think the comparison, as many people made before the season, and as people will make right now, the best comparison is Crosby and Ovechkin. Yes, Crosby is an amazing offensive player, as we all know, but he's also got that defensive play to help him out. Not to say, Alex Ovechkin doesn't play defense, but you get the comparison. It's a fair comparison to make. So I think in terms of Calder, while it's not a lock, you would assume Austin Matthews is the favorite at this point just because of the all-around player that he is, on top of the fact that he is lighting the world on fire for the Leafs. But then again, Patrick Laine, 3 hat tricks this year. Mitch Marner is doing amazing. Like, it's interesting. And I said that too in the, the Claude Julien gets hired video. Just this season in general, the past few months in the NHL have been ridiculous. It all started last offseason with the Subban trade. Now you've had certain coaches coaching changes and all that, what trades are going to happen, and right down to the wire. You have playoff battles right down to the wire, whether or not certain people are, who's taking home awards is what I'm trying to say. That's another reason why I often didn't live commentary through these whole things, because when these menus don't do what they should, I can get a little bit distracted. But I don't know. I'm really intrigued to see who. And fuck it. I'll ask you. I will ask you. Who's your Calder favorite right now? Is it Laine? Is it Matthews? Is it somebody else like Zach Werenski? Who do you think is the Vezina favorite at this point? Devan Dubnyk, Sergei Bobrovsky, or maybe somebody else? The Norris. Is it Brent Burns? Is it somebody like Drew Doughty? Who is it? I mean, I would have to say Brent Burns is probably the unanimous favorite. But it's just really interesting because you look at a lot of these races, not just the playoff races, but who are the favorites for these awards. The good thing is for Columbus, though, I do think if Bobrovsky, as we are approaching the All-Star break, not too bad, goddamn. I do think for Columbus they will take home some sort of hardware. If Bobrovsky doesn't get the Vezina, the Jack Adams goes to John Tortorella, not because he's the best coach in the league, but the Jack Adams Award is about who is the overachiever of this season. And, Columbus has kind of dropped down a little bit from where they started the season. So, I mean, there's no doubting that they were overachieving. But if they make the playoffs, when nobody really expected them to, I think that locks up the award for them. Obviously, you can debate. I mean, if you're talking Best Coach Award, I mean, every year the debate would be Quenneville, Babcock, and then either... What is it? Sutter? Is it Sutter? No, it's Sutter in in LA, Claude Julien, even, depending on his team's success, although whether or not that team's success is down to him is questionable, which, again, you can go hear me talk about that all you want. I don't know. It is going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward with the rest of the NHL season. Now, as far as this sim goes, obviously I haven't talked too much about it, but we've managed to kill quite a bit of time, and I think what I'm going to do here, as we are 47 games into the new season, we are going to sim... actually, I was going to end it at the start of the month. Let's go to the 17th, middle of the month. Let's see what happens, or at least the middle of the calendar screen at the moment. Obviously, the 15th would be the... Oh, actually, it's February, so the middle of the month would be the 14th, but... Do we really need to be that specific? I don't think I do. Anyway, Chicago Wolves 28-16-1, and the St. Louis Blues have turned things around. I thought that was going to be a major injury to one of our main players. Thankfully, it was not, but we do have a defensive injury. So Ben Blood, come on down. The enforcer gets back into the lineup. I am glad that I sacrificed the AHL team somewhat. You know, obviously we got rid of a lot of prospects during the last episode to make room. Why is Patrick Laine bitching about ice time? You're on the second power play units, and you're on the second line in general as a second line forward. Fuck off. I'm not being nice about that. Screw you, EA. That's ridiculous. But, oh shit, there was a back-to-back there, and I played Price in both, and we have lost 3 straight games. We lost a shootout 8-7 against Carolina, who's not even a 500 team. That is a hell of a way to end this episode, losing 4 out of our last 5. Not the best stretch of games there. But let's take a look. We are in first place in the division by a very wide margin. The only team with a winning record, which for a while in this series, it looked like the Dallas Stars were going to run away with this division. But now that we've gotten our shit together, things are looking okay. The Florida Panthers have the NHL's best record. We have the best record in the Western Conference. And as we did last year, the NHL's best offense belongs to us. The Florida Panthers are not that far behind. The best defense also belongs to the St. Louis Blues. Power play, I do wonder. Power play? 4th best power play. I'll take that. And how's our penalty kill doing? Our penalty kill is up there. 6th in the league. So as you would expect, things are going pretty well for us. As we take a look, though, at the AHL, Chicago Wolves currently in 3rd. They're probably going to be in 2nd. 2 points back, 4 games at hand over the Manitoba Moose. So both teams doing quite well for us so far this year. Jack Eichel's our leading scorer, but we'll go to the other menu now that we haven't had to deal with too many injuries. We actually haven't. Again, I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx it. We haven't dealt with too many injuries. But let's take a look. Top line, Michael Dowcole, not bad. 44 points, a plus 23. 44 points in 54 games. Not too bad at all. I'm impressed. That's pretty damn sweet. Connor McDavid, 47 points with a plus 24. And Jack Eichel, 24 and 24. So that top line is finally gelling and delivering as they should. Second line, Dylan Strome, 13 goals, 18 assists, a plus 11. Not too bad. That line has certainly improved ever since we moved Strome to the left wing. Center, Clayton Keller, 10 goals, 33 assists. And then Patrick Laine, only 23 points. Only 23 points for Patrick Laine. And the question moving forward is, what do we do with him? We just signed him. Could it be because we signed him to one of those crazy deals that he just isn't going to progress as he should? I'm fairly confident that was the case with Jacob Larson, and that might be the case here with Patrick Laine. This game might have a built-in mechanic to make sure that you can't cheat the system or at least to that extent. You can certainly cheat the system a lot. The question is, though, if he doesn't improve and if he doesn't hit a certain point total, and let me know down below what you think would be a decent point total for him. He only hit 48 points last year. He missed 4 games. Do we get rid of Patrick Laine this year? That's obviously been something that's been discussed in the comments quite a bit. But do we get rid of him? I mean, Dylan Strome, his contract is coming up. Clayton Keller's contract is coming up. Connor McDavid, Michael Dal Cole. People are going to have to go. I think Patrick Laine might be a bit expendable. And then you look here on the third line. Timo Meier, strong chance. He can become a second line forward next year. He might stay as a third. He has 19 points, so maybe he'd be better as a third liner. But then you have Tyson Jost, who's already a second line forward. 13 goals, 15 assists. And Klim Kostin, 9 goals, 34 assists for him. He is also a second line forward. So you could argue Timo Meier's safe, but then everybody else in the top 9, we need to pick 6 of them. We need to get rid of some people, more than likely. It's going to be very tough to re-sign everybody. But that is a discussion for another time, but it's definitely something we need to think about right now. Pavel Zacha, has 16 points on the fourth line. That's perfect. That is perfect. I am more than content with that. Emile Poirier, 5 goals and 8 assists. Again, not terrible. And then Joel Armia with 9 goals and 13 helpers. Not too bad from the fourth line at all. I am content. Defensively, I'm very intrigued to see these point totals. Olli Juolevi, 11 goals, 8 helpers. He's a plus 34, though. Drew Doughty, 8 goals, 37 helpers, and he is a plus 37. Not too bad. Second pairing, Mikhail Sergachev, 4 goals and 22 assists. Hard emphasis on the S. He's doing well for himself. Tim Liljegren, 8 points as an offensive defenseman with 96 passing and an 87 offensive awareness. That is shocking. He's a plus 11. So I do wonder, do we change him to a two-way? Maybe that jumpstarts his offense. Then the third pairing, Thomas Chabot, only 15 points. Maybe we switch him back to a two-way to see what that does. He plays with Dmitry Koltsov, 5 points, 12 helpers. Not too bad. So the defense, aside from Drew Doughty, not really chipping in as much as I thought they would be. But with some of the offensive talent we have, maybe that is not too surprising. Carey Price, 47 games, 30 wins, a .927 save percentage, a .931 for Vieni Vehviläinen. He should have a couple more starts. Obviously, I missed at least one back-to-back. But Carey Price is still the man. Of course, our big question moving forward is the goaltending situation. We are going to need to get an elite goalie prospect. We will look to do that in the future. Not both goalies in the AHL. Michael DiPietro performing pretty well. Luukkonen is not, an .897. So DiPietro may take that job. And Luukkonen, who we acquired simply because of the fact he was a bigger goalie, and I wanted to see how that would work out. That's not exactly working out so far. I do want to check, though, Bellerive having a good season. Brett Howden having a good year. Glenn Gaudin, Marcus Davidson. David Lavin is up to an 82. God damn. That's what I'm talking about. Some of these prospects are really progressing. Mackenzie Entwistle not doing too bad. Simpson doing well. Comtois doing well. He is 22 now, though, so I'd like to see that overall go up a little bit more. McGinn not doing too bad. Things are looking good for both teams, that is for sure. I mean, AHL defensive prospects, things aren't looking too good there. But this team overall is looking pretty good. You could argue maybe we should look at making some changes heading in to the trade deadline and what looks like will eventually be a playoff push. But without a doubt, as is always the case, this team will continue to undergo changes. And I did want to look. Pietrangelo and Tyler Johnson are both free agents. We could, and Derek Brassard for that matter, we could trade Patrick Laine and we could bring on Tyler Johnson and have him play on the second or third line for the rest of this season. And Alex Pietrangelo, if we were to trade Laine, we would be able to afford both of these guys. Now, I'm not sure who Pietrangelo would replace because defensively things are looking okay. I mean, you'd be talking about probably giving up someone like Thomas Chabot, and then once Pietrangelo goes, using the draft picks that we have to acquire another solid defensive prospect. It's tough to say. There are a lot of questions about this team, but one thing is for sure, we are the best team in the Western Conference so far, and hopefully that will continue when we wrap up the rest of this season in the next episode. So with that one, guys, this episode, or with that said, I should say, this episode comes to a close. I hope you did enjoy. Of course, if you did, make sure to hit that like button to help support me and my channel. That little bit extra helps. Let me know down below what you thought of the episode and everything I discussed. And subscribe if you haven't already to continue following this series and others. And I will see you guys in the next one.